everybody. So glad to have you with me. It is another awesome Vegans on the Elizabeth Alfano Show today on WCGO. I think you guys know that if you can't belly up to your dial to 1590 AM and 95.9 FM to listen live to WCGO and the Elizabeth Alfano Show, you can always get it on WCGOradio.com and Alexa. Just say, hey, Alexa, play me WCGO. You want to do that Sundays at 3:00, of course, for the Elizabeth Alfano Show. So like I said, it's going to be another awesome Vegans Day on my show. I've got a wonderful guest for you. But before I bring on the super fabulous John Oberg, you know that I break down my show with the news. So let's get into it. Okay, Vegeconomist magazine, which I love, has reported that China has decided it's going to decrease its country's meat consumption by 50% by 2030. And you know, when they decide, they just do it. There's no like voting on if you're going to do it. You're just doing it. So China's decided to decrease meat consumption by 2030 by 50%. They're doing this to reduce carbon emissions and obesity. They're starting to feel the rise in healthcare costs when people are sick from a meat and dairy diet. Incubators like Dow Foods and also companies like Beyond Meat, Impossible Foods, Just Eggs, and even Zen Meats and Omni Pork, all of those companies, which have been on my Plant-Based Business Hour podcast, by the way. If you'd like a deep dive into plant-based business, you can always get that. All of those companies have been on my podcast. So check out Plant-Based Business Hour on iTunes and Google Play and Spotify. It's everywhere. Vegeconomist also reports that Canadian company, the Very Good Food Company, also known as Very Good Butchers, they did an IPO last month. Yes, during COVID. They were the second plant-based company to ever do an IPO. They started at 25 cents on the Canadian Stock Exchange. They're now at 155, not even 6 weeks later. They have gone on and sold more shares for $8.5 billion bought deal public offering. Again, it's a little bit insider baseball with some of these business stats, but if you like this kind of thing, hit up the Plant-Based Business Hour because I'm doing lots and lots of business interviews these days because things are heating up in the plant-based business area. Okay, but it's not just all about the numbers, cha-ching, cha-ching. It's also about New Day, New Chef. Season 2 is out on Amazon Prime. I was over the moon to be one of the executive producers on season 1, and I was also a chef. And now I'm a chef on season 2. So go hit up Amazon Prime. You all know how to do that. Of course, if you got Amazon Prime, it's free. If not, I think it's something like 99 cents. But go check out New Day, New Chef. Of course, always write a review, but it's very exciting to see that kind of vegan cooking show on Amazon Prime. So love that show. For those of you who missed my class last Saturday, Jumpstart Your Plant-Based Life, a lot of the feedback I got from the class was, 1, do it again. So I will. You can catch it in the fall. But 2, that people don't always have time to cook. Even if you cook 3, 4, 5 times a week, you've got a couple nights when you can't do it. So a lot of people have said they've enjoyed knowing about Vistro.com. Vistro is a plant-based meal delivery service. You just pick what you want online and it arrives at your doorstep, and it's healthy and it's fast and it feeds a family. And you can pick, oh, I want gluten-free or no, I don't, all this kind of stuff to tailor it to you. So if you hit up Vistro.com and you put in the code Alfano, you can get 20% off. That's ALFANO. Hit up Vistro for some 20% off and some good food right to your doorstep. Doesn't that make life easier? Okay, my last bit of news before I bring on my guest. I just want to do a shout out really to a friend. A friend of mine has started an app called A Billion Veg. I love him, Vikas Garg. I love what he's up to. I love the app. If you like to take pictures of food, and we're going to talk about social media in just a second with John Oberg. If you like to take pictures of food, download the app A Billion Veg. Every food review that you do, money is donated to animals and animal sanctuaries as well. That information, here's the key, that information goes back to restaurants to tell them what you liked about the vegan options, how they can make them better, and how they can create more. So it's this ongoing circle of, you want more vegan stuff? Then let's tell everybody how to get you more vegan stuff. You may remember a couple of weeks ago, I had Ken Spector from Happy Cow here on my show telling us that more vegan restaurants have opened during COVID than have closed. So COVID ain't going to stop us. We are on the rise. Okay, the news is over. Let's bring in my fabulous guest, whom I also love very much, John Oberg. Thanks for being with me today.
Thanks for being here, Elizabeth. It's great to be here, especially with that amazing intro of all the great things going on in the plant-based world. So I'm very stoked to be here in your presence and to talk about the great things going on in this world.
Oh, I told you, everybody. I told you we would love him. Well, I think the world of you. So let's get into how you are actually changing the world and for the better. When I explain to people what you do, I sort of say, well, he's an animal activist, but really he's a social media expert. Really, he's taken protesting like to your fingertips with your phone. Let's give people an understanding. How would you really define yourself?
Well, that's very nice of you, Elizabeth. I also think the world of you, and I'm excited to be here and chat with you. So the way I would best describe myself is an animal advocate who focuses on maximizing my impact and maximizing my reach. And the way that I have found that I can best do that is through social media outreach. And fortunately, this is something that many people can do. Many animal advocates can do because we're all on social media, right? Almost all of us are on social media. We're
Even
using
me.
it. Yeah, even you, Elizabeth, everybody. So if you're on social media and you want to influence others, this is a great place to do it, especially in these times, these unique times right now where street outreach or person-to-person outreach is much more difficult to do. So social media advocacy is what I focus on. So I work to get as many views as possible, really hard-hitting content so that people look at animals differently and that they see the reality that these animals are facing behind the closed doors of factory farms and slaughterhouses.
Thank you for doing this. And I really want to say thank you for doing this work. And by that, I mean, I know you love it and you're a social media expert. And I know people do hire you for consultations, et cetera. But I also know that this is deeply personal for you and deeply important and aligns with your values of how you want to see the world change and grow. So it is sort of mission aligned work. My understanding is that when people see graphic videos, they tend to shy away. Is that what you find on social media?
That is something that happens, and people don't want to see animal cruelty. Whether you're
No.
vegan and you're already not eating animals, you probably don't want to see what you're no longer contributing to. But if you are a non-vegan and you're actively participating in this, and you know that your dollar is going towards this, you often don't want to contribute to this. So no matter who you are, most people don't really willingly want to watch animal cruelty videos, right? And so that's why we need to be strategic. We need to be, we really need to figure out how to get people to see this. And some ways that I do this is by focusing on content that isn't overly gory. If something is so harsh to see, and that they are going to immediately turn it off or scroll past it or unfollow you, that is really limiting the impact that you can have. But if you can focus on content that maybe pulls on the heartstrings or is a little bit sadder rather than just absolutely brutal, you might have more success. And so over the last few years, I've really optimized my strategy to take that into consideration. And I've had a lot of success doing that. And this is something that all animal advocates out there can do. Focus on really raising awareness by not getting people to turn away. And there's also lots of ways that you can get this message out to the people that doesn't even require making people sad, right? You can talk about the great vegan food that's out there, how you can cook great vegan food or go out and order great vegan food. Do the things that you're doing, Elizabeth, where you are telling people, okay, if you don't want to participate in this, then do this. And it's not that hard. We live in 2020, and now it's just a matter of choosing one thing off a shelf instead of another, one thing off a menu instead of another to get our behavior to align with the values that we already have.
So I love that you're saying this. It's something that we talk about all the time on this show. If you want to see a better world, then you align your purchasing power with your values and you are going to see that immediate change. So what does that mean? You're walking into the store, you go to the dairy aisle, you let your fingers just move over like 2 or 3 inches and you're going to get plant-based milk instead. It's all right there for you. And you're going to see the grocery store change more and more. Again, I talk about this on the Plant-Based Business Hour, but you're going to see that real estate in the grocery store change. And it's not going to be this funky funky vegan section way over here. It's all going to be right there. The meat aisle, my prediction is no longer going to be called the meat aisle. It's going to be called the protein aisle. People can choose for themselves if they want plant-based protein or animal protein. So the point is, the more you vote with your dollars, the more you see change and the easier it's going to get. But let's hone in for a second on the word activist. Here we are, 2020. Everybody has a phone. Is everybody an activist? Is activist even the right word? Sometimes for people that conjures up protesting in the street, or, stomping your foot, or what, screaming or whatever. But maybe it's just taking a picture of food. Tell me, is activist even the right word?
Well, first of all, I'm glad that you brought up the idea of purchasing power and how much of a role that plays. That is activism, our purchasing power. I think that everything that we do is activism. We are always choosing to support something or choosing not to support something.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I love that you say that, because life in general, be it activism or not, just life in general is all about personal choices. And that means, this is great news. This means that you are totally empowered to decide for yourselves the lives you want to lead, the things you want to eat. And you might watch politics and say like, oh my gosh, I can't stand the person on the right. I can't stand the person on the left. It doesn't even matter what side you are. You might feel like everyone out there is crazy. Here's a way to get control, to empower yourself. You align your dollars with your values, and you don't have to be a part of the things that you don't want to see in the world.
Absolutely. That's what it all comes down to. And, there aren't a lot of things in this world that we can control. There's a lot of politics that we can't control. There's wars, there's pandemics. There's so many things that are out of our control. But one thing that is absolutely within the control of each and every one of us is, what are we choosing to purchase? What are we choosing to buy into? And fortunately,
because we're coming right back after break. Hey, everybody. It's great to have you on Twitter and YouTube. And of course, Shane Unchained on Facebook. John Oberg, so fabulous. We are back. Hey, everybody. It's the Elizabeth Alfano Show. Thanks for being with me. I have the very fabulous John Oberg with me. Right before break, we had a quick exit there. We were talking about aligning your purchasing power with your values. Sorry, John, I had to cut you off for a commercial. Go ahead, if you could pick up.
Yeah, there are a lot of things in this world that we cannot control. But fortunately, one thing that we can control is what we choose to purchase and what we choose to support or not support. And the thing is, the vast majority of people around the world oppose animal cruelty. Polls consistently show that almost everybody opposes animal cruelty. So it's just a matter of getting people to say, okay, if I oppose animal cruelty, then it's a matter of choosing this alternative rather than this purchase that contributes to suffering and to cruelty. Because if we all had to check yes or no in that box, we're checking no in that box. Animal cruelty is something that nobody wants to support, but many people are unwillingly. So it's a matter of getting our purchasing power to match those behavior, to match those ethics that we already have.
Yeah, I love that you say that. So much to unpack there. I want to first say that Josh Bulk, who's one of the vice presidents of the Humane League of the United States, has been on this show, Awesome Vegans, and he says the exact same thing. They've polled both Republicans and Democrats. Does not matter what political party you align with. In fact, this is probably the only area where we all agree. Given the opportunity, not only will everyone check that box that they don't believe in animal cruelty, but they'll also say that they're willing to pay more to not be a part of animal cruelty. So when given the option at the ballot box, even if it costs more, people don't want animal cruelty. And yet it's such a hard topic for people to wrap their minds around or feel that they have the power to change. Meat and dairy are huge lobbies, huge industries. You eat 3 times a day. You can't always be, I'm very compassionate to the other side. You can't always be reinventing the wheel. You might have a family of 5 people you have to feed. You can't constantly be saying, I got to find that freaky thing in the vegan aisle that's way on the other side. Or, it's got to be easy and convenient and affordable for people. So I don't know. What do you think? What do you tell people when they say, I just can't take that on?
Well, for one, it's very important that as advocates, we need to put ourselves in our audience's shoes. We are not our audience. We as vegans, as vegan advocates, we walk around thinking about veganism all the time. We think about farm animal issues. the vast majority of society is not thinking about that day in and day out. There are many, many people out there who have probably thought about, what chickens experience maybe once in their life, twice in their life, and they're eating it every single day. And so we need to understand that we are not our audience. And so we really need to cater our message to our audience. And so when we're talking to activists or when we're talking to non-vegans out there, something that we need to do and to remember is that we need to make it very presentable, very reasonable. And so for that reason, I don't say, you need to go vegan overnight or you are a bad person. We need to come at them with open arms, and we need to give them recommendations and to encourage them to take steps that are sustainable. And if that particular person you're talking to, you think you could get them to go vegan overnight, perhaps they're a college student who's open to lots of new ideas and has great access to great vegan food, then maybe that's somebody you could get to go vegan overnight. But the vast majority of people out there aren't in that boat. And so we need to celebrate progress rather than focusing so much effort and so many resources on purity.
Yeah, one of the messages that I love to give people is, oh my gosh, when in your life have you seen so many enormous, critical, chronic problems solved with one solution? So, here, if you've got some health issues, maybe you're tackling pre-diabetes or a little bit of, I speak for myself too, a little bit of the COVID-19, the pounds that people have put on for COVID, or, so you're worried about your weight, or you're worried about high blood pressure, you're worried about hypertension, plant-based, whole food plant-based is the solution there. If you're concerned about the environment, particularly if you have kids and you're thinking about the future, whole food or just plant-based in general vegan is the solution there. And if you have animal welfare concerns, veganism is the answer there. And if you're interested in your wallet, veganism is the answer there. Certainly there's nothing more inexpensive than rice and beans, but also you see your tax dollars go to subsidies, things that you don't want as we think of ourselves as a capitalist society where a product should be able to compete freely. So lots of reasons that this one answer is a happier, better future for everyone.
Yeah, it's truly amazing. It's almost a bad thing because it sounds like such a
like it couldn't be true
assumption that one choice can impact dozens and dozens of areas of the world that need our help, whether it's world hunger, whether it's workers' rights, whether it's our health, whether it's the environment, whether it's animal welfare. We could go on and on and on. And choosing plant-based food rather than animal-based food all of these things can really help all of those different areas in the world, which is something that we almost can't say about almost anything else. So it almost is harder to make our case because it's such a good case.
It's such a good case. Oh, my word. And I want to say hats off to all the people out there like John who are using their voice. Talk about being empowered, using their voice to align with their values, not just your purchasing power, but when you align your purchasing power and your voice to align with your dollars, wow, you're really making a difference. And then all those entrepreneurs out there who are making it possible, because we need more than Impossible Foods and Beyond Meat, if you're going to change the world and make it plant-based. So you just see all these companies popping up everywhere. And I just, they're the little engines that could, and I just want them all to succeed so much. I'm wondering, are you seeing a rise in, I'll call it, the silent activist? So not everyone wants to share a graphic video, and certainly not everyone is out there on the street corner with a sign. But are you seeing the rise of people say like, more than food, because that's just too easy, more than vegan dishes, but they're starting to voice some things on social media like, I didn't like that Trump has rolled back this law or that law for animals. Are you seeing more people speak up for animal welfare or not much?
Yeah, I've been a vegan activist for just over 10 years. And in my 10 years, I've seen many more people, I'd say per capita, speaking up for animals and being comfortable speaking up for animals. The word vegan was almost a bad word 5-10 years ago. And today it's almost mainstream. I wouldn't say it's quite mainstream, but it's becoming more and more mainstream every week, every month. And so, people speaking up for veganism, speaking up for animals, and speaking out against animal cruelty is becoming more and more of a thing. And I think that social media has really helped perpetuate this. It's really amplified people's ability to speak out for against animal cruelty. You know, social media has essentially democratized information, and so people don't want to support animal cruelty, right? And so
coming back right after break. I'm so sorry. Coming back right after break. Oh my gosh, it goes so fast. I'm so sorry. We had to take a commercial break, but we are back. Hold on. Oh my gosh, it's so hard to break when I'm with John Oberg. I just don't want to do it. We are back. It's the Elizabeth Alfano Show. John is with me. He is a social media expert and an activist, but he is really using his voice and his purchasing power to change the world by aligning those things, his voice and his dollars, with his values. Okay, so we're talking about how there's this rise on social media of, I would like to say, the silent activist, maybe people who aren't on the street corner with a sign, but they're starting to say, hey, animal cruelty is not okay with me, and I'm willing to say that out loud.
Absolutely. Social media has democratized information, and now anybody all around the world has access to so much information, whether it's through hashtags or just finding accounts or posting things that you're interested in, or things you're totally not interested in, and you're stumbling across this information. Whatever it is, social media allows us this ability to get this important information out to the world, to every corner of rural America, or suburban Europe, or an urban city in Japan. Anywhere in the world, we can get the information out, which is really a beautiful thing for progressing the world, progressing the ball forward for animals.
Yeah, we live in extraordinary times. I mean, it is an exciting time to be alive. I feel social justice change on many fronts, and many fronts are important to me. Black Lives Matter, obviously. We're talking about those things on this show as well. But I see animal issues very much tied to that. If we want a society that has less violence, then we need to get violence off our plates 3 times a day. I mean, what do you do more than eat 3 times a day? And then if you're around COVID, maybe you're even eating 3 times a day and snacking. So, I mean, what do you do more than eat? And to have this cycle of violence around you and your family every day, of course, it's going to bleed into society, and that gives us other societal issues. So, and of course, I stand with Black Lives Matter. So let me ask you, what do you think COVID in particular has done to animal activism?
Something that these lockdowns has happened as a result is a lot more people spending more time on social media, spending their time at home, maybe watching more documentaries. And so more and more people are being exposed to this information. And like I said earlier, social media has democratized information. So many people are getting this information out and then absorbing it. And so if you don't have the ability to go out to a bar on a Friday night, or a concert on Saturday afternoon, and you're stuck at home and you're doing things that you might do at home, that's often scrolling through social media on your phone, watching Netflix, watching other streaming platforms, checking out some great vegan documentaries, checking out your show on Amazon Prime. There's lots of opportunities to be exposed to new information. And as a result, more and more people are being exposed to this information. And then it's a numbers game, right, Elizabeth? So the more people who are exposed to this information, the more of an impact that is made for animals. So it's very, very important that we are really a numbers-focused movement that are really focused on getting as many people to be exposed to this content as possible, but then also understanding the plethora of resources out there, like your show and so many others, that give people the resources they need to succeed with this new way of eating and living.
Yes, and I also think people are starting to doubt their meat supply. They're wondering where it comes from, what's involved. They're seeing how factory workers are treated. They're just starting to put together for themselves that this isn't just, oh, my doctor nagging me about heart disease. This is actually a bad gig all the way around. So many people affected because they've lost their job during a pandemic, because meat-borne pandemics come from eating meat. And I think people are starting to see that this is really a bad gig for me. So I've just noticed in COVID that I feel from my little view of the world, more people are speaking out, more people are trying plant-based numbers. I'm back to the plant-based business hour, but plant-based numbers are through the roof. The second quarter of 2020, plant-based sales were up quite a bit over 2019. Investment in plant-based businesses is more for the first quarter of 2020 than all of 2019. So you're just seeing that a lot of people are starting to see the writing on the wall. The future is not meat and dairy. So from many perspectives, from the animal welfare, from the pandemic perspective, and from the environmental perspective and the health perspective. So I think COVID has sped things up a little bit, which is kind of interesting.
Absolutely.
But I wanted to get into a little bit more about you personally. Maybe you could tell me if there's a moment in time when you remember saying to yourself, like an exact moment when you said, that's it, I'm vegan and I am never going back.
Yeah, absolutely. So although I don't think that most people who become vegan really have light bulb moments, I think what it is change happens slowly over time. And there are, one thing happens and then a few months or a few years later, something else happens and then something else happens. And that's what eventually leads you to change. And that's what happened with me. But what I will say is there were two final straws that did it for me. And I'll quickly talk about those. So for one, I was in Helsinki, Finland, and I was backpacking around Europe, and I was hanging out with I met some guy at a open air market, and he was selling reindeer meat. Okay, and this is many years ago. This is when I was eating animals, and to me, chicken was the same as reindeer meat, whatever. I loved animals, but I was also eating animals every single day, and so I didn't really see a difference between the animals, or I did definitely see a difference between the animals I ate and other animals. So I was open to eating the reindeer meat, and so I befriended this guy, and he ended up giving me his leftovers, after he got off, he gave me this leftover reindeer meat in a garbage bag. And so I'm carrying around this garbage bag full of reindeer meat with him because we're like, oh, let's go hang out. Let's go to the library. So we're walking to the library. I talk to him. I'm like, hey, I want to be or he tells me how he's into activism. And I always had this activist streak in me. And this activist streak in me made me say, oh, well, I want to be an activist too. And he asks me, what kind of activism do you want to get involved in? And I said, I want to be an animal activist. And he says, John, if you want to be an animal activist, you should probably stop eating reindeer meat or carrying around your back on your shoulder like your Santa Claus. And I had never once in my life thought about my relationship to food in my relationships and care for animals up until that moment. And so it was that moment where I said, you know what? He's right. I need to stop doing this because it's really counterintuitive to call myself an animal lover. And I believed I was a very, very strong animal lover. I protested for animals. I did all kinds of stuff. But I was eating them every single day. And so I went vegetarian on principle. And then a number of months later, I was watching a film called Earthlings. And for those of you who have not seen Earthlings, many people call it the vegan maker. It made me vegan. I watched that film and I went vegan as a result because up until that point, I didn't know anything about how animals were actually treated. I just knew that it was kind of weird to be eating them if I also loved them. Then I learned through this film just how animals are treated. Egg-laying hens, dairy cows, and all animals, all farm animals especially, are treated just absolutely terrible ways. And so if you're vegan and you're watching this or listening to this, you don't have to watch Earthlings. You're already on our side. But if you're not yet vegan, I would highly recommend watching Earthlings. You can find it online for free. It's a really, really powerful, powerful film. So those two things are the things that led me to be the person I am today.
Yeah, I love that story because I think you are in the same boat as almost everyone. They just don't make that connection that they're eating animals. I mean, they think of animals as these entities that are living, breathing, suffering, feeling, emotive beings, but they don't connect that to what's on their plate. So, and of course, they had to suffer to get to your plate. And as we've discussed, nobody wants them to suffer. So it's this odd, illogical, because of bazillions of dollars of advertising, folks, so that you don't make the connection and that you think the cow is actually smiling on that milk carton. Believe me, they are not. But I think many people just don't make that connection. So I love that that's your story. Let me ask you this. What are your predictions for the future? I'll say sort of 3 to 5 years out. We know that, most people on the show say, well, the world's going plant-based. But beyond that, what kind of palpable shift can you talk about that you see coming down the pipeline? Let's say 3 years out.
Yeah, so for one, people are becoming more and more aware of animal cruelty on factory farms and beyond. And I think that COVID has done a really good job of highlighting lots of horrible things going on, whether it's the terrible depopulations of animals,
yes,
or the treatment of slaughterhouse workers. And so, information awareness is becoming bigger and bigger every single year. So I think that more people will be aware in 3 to 5 years. And then also plant-based foods are becoming more and more readily accessible. Also price is starting to come down, and as production increases and more companies come to the market, I think prices will decrease, which I think will push more people to eat more plant-based. I do see the future being plant-based in decades. One thing that I'm very, very excited about, and this might not be 3 years away, maybe a little bit longer, but is the implementation and adoption of eating clean meat, which is essentially real meat, but not made with animals. And so it's really going to be a game changer for billions and billions of animals once that is fully implemented. And as vegan advocates who are focused on reducing the most amount of suffering, clean meat is something that we've got to get behind and really throw our support for, because it's something that's going to really, really change the game for animals.
I love what you're saying. You're talking about cellular agriculture. So you're growing meat specifically from the cells of animals, no waste, just what people will be eating from those cells. We got to take a break. Gosh, how I hate to do it. We'll be right back with John Oberg. Woo, that time I did make the break. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm all about cellular agriculture, folks. I'm all about it. Clean meat. Carol Zarbano, clean meat is where you grow the meat from the cells of animals, and no one was harmed in the making. Here we go. Oh, we're back. It's the Elizabeth Alfano Show on WCGO. Thanks, John Oberg, for being with me today. So we were talking about cellular agriculture. For those who haven't heard about it, we're talking about clean meat, which is the growing of meat from the cells of animals. No animals are harmed in doing this, and you grow exactly what you need, and you don't have to cut down trees. You save on water. You're not growing an animal for 18 months just to have it suffer for 18 months so that it can make it to your plate. You're just growing this actual piece of meat from cells, and then it makes it to your plate from there. So I also think it's a game changer, and I love it. This is our last segment of the radio show, so I want to make sure that we get the best tips from John that we can get. So at the end of my show, I always like to do our top 8 or 10 tips. Give me your top 8 tips for how people can be an effective activist. For animals,
sure.
By the way.
Sure. So there are lots and lots of things that activists can do in their regular basis, like their regular activities, that are going to make a difference for animals, whether it's through social media or beyond. I'll talk about things that have some crossover. Mostly it's social media, but there's a lot of crossover with just regular activism right in your day-to-day outreach. So for one, don't be a jerk. When is the last time you saw someone being a jerk and said, I want to be like that person? Pretty much never. So It's very important that we talk to people with open arms and compassion. Number 2, put yourself in your audience's shoes. That is very important, because we are not our audience, right? Our audience are people who don't think about farm animals regularly. They don't think about veganism, and they think that veganism is not just difficult, but probably impossible. Most vegans were in those same shoes just a few months, years, decades ago. And so we have to remember that our audience is not like us. And so we need to be reasonable. Number 3, pay attention to what's working and what's not working on social media. So if you are posting animal cruelty stuff and nobody's engaging with it, then maybe you need to change your strategy a little bit. Maybe post a little bit less about animal cruelty and focus more on happy things as well. Really focus on what's working and what's not working. Also, don't forget to bite your tongue, especially when you're talking with trolls. The best of us, all of us are essentially trolls. It's okay. If you're getting trolled, it means that you are doing something right. And for those of you in the audience who don't know what being trolled is, it's essentially people talking smack on your posts about why you are, why you are wrong, why people should be eating animals, and so on. And so if you're getting trolled, for one, hey, take it as a sign that you're doing something right. And for two, bite your tongue. Don't lash out at them. Talk to them with compassion, and you will be surprised at how quickly their guard might come down and they are actually opening up to you. Number 5, schedule posts on social media rather than just posting live all the time. I could see Elizabeth in agreement with that one.
Okay. I got to get that one under my belt. Okay, fair enough.
Yes, scheduling posts is such a nice way of really focusing your strategy and having a much more efficient use of your time rather than waking up every day and thinking, hey, what am I going to post? Number 6, mix up the content that you're posting. So don't always just do sad stuff. Don't always do happy stuff. Don't always post photos of your food. You can do all these things, but mix them up with other kinds of content as well around animal issues and even around your personal life as well that has nothing to do with animal issues. If you come across as a zealot, people are less likely to hear what you have to say. You have to come across as relatable, and you have to present content in a way that isn't boring people or isn't overwhelming people. Number 7, post an optimal amount. So I would recommend not posting, 10 times a day. I would recommend posting an amount that seems to work well for your audience. Find that sweet spot between not posting too much, where you're annoying people, and not posting enough, where people are forgetting that you exist. And then lastly, my last tip for the audience is to remember that on social media, you are fighting an algorithm, okay? You are in this constant battle with the Instagram algorithm, Facebook algorithm, and so on, where your content is only going to be seen if it's getting engagement. So if you're posting things that people aren't that interested in and aren't engaging with, so aren't liking, commenting, sharing, that is going to hurt your place in the algorithm. So more of your future posts, including the post, are not going to be seen by as many people. But on the contrary, if you're posting content that's performing well, more and more people are going to see your content. So really, you got to pay attention to what's working, do more of that, pay attention to what's not working, and do less of that. Take these tips and enter the social media world, and you will guarantee to have more success.
Okay, so I love what you say, and thank you for getting us started. I will say, obviously, share this video right now, everybody. If you've learned anything from those top 10 tips or top 8 tips, share this video. I will add 2 tips of my own. And the first one, so I guess number 9, is get comfortable with your own voice. It's really important to find your voice. And a lot of people, I speak for myself, I was trepidatious about coming to a public platform to speak out for animals until I had really figured out the limits of what I was going to do, to figure out really what I was comfortable with. I didn't want to overstep. It was new to me. So finding my own voice in this world, not of like dinner parties or a coffee with a girlfriend, but here in this public world, that once I nailed that down, I was able to really speak out often and as much as I wanted. So I had to find my own voice. And then I'll just say, live your best life. So much is not about telling people what to do, but it's about showing people what you do. So if you're a great cook, if you've got, obviously we got the food thing down. I think everybody knows how to take pictures of their food, but it's beyond that. It's the exercises you do. It's the smile that you bring. If you are vegan and you are living a happy, exciting, loving, fun life, everybody wants a part of that. So I would say, bring your best life to it. Those are our top 10 tips. Before I let you go, John, because I don't want to let you go, we do have a couple quick sort of exit questions for you. COVID has been tricky for many people, and I'm wondering if you are ever having a bad day, is there a phrase that you tell yourself to get yourself back in the game?
Yeah, if I'm having a bad day, whether it's because of COVID or because of something else, I just remind myself that tomorrow is a brand new day.
Love that. Okay. And a one word answer out of you. You are busy. You don't have time for lunch. You're running around like a crazy person. What is your go-to snack?
Mac and cheese. That's 3 words, but mac and cheese is always my go-to snack. I love it.
Is that a snack?
Vegan
Oh my
mac and
gosh.
cheese, of course. Okay, so
Yeah,
that's
of
4 words.
course. Oh my gosh. If you don't know John Oberg, you want to follow him. He's everywhere at John Oberg on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. If you've missed any of this and you want some more, you can always get the Awesome Vegans podcast. It's all over the iTunes platforms and everywhere else. You can also get my Plant-Based Business Hour podcast. And of course, you can follow me on all the socials at ElizabethAlfano.com or Elizabeth Alfano. I hope you will do that. We've loved having you with us, so I hate to let you go. But everybody, I am back here every Sunday at 3:00 on WCGO. So I hope that you'll tune back in. John, will you come back?
Absolutely, I'll come back. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I look forward to making my return at some point in the future.
Okay, so John, you don't go away because we're going to do some extra content for the podcast. Everybody else, I will see you next Sunday. Until then, thanks for bringing back your health and the health of the planet. Okay, we are out of the radio show, but I do have one more extra question for you. Thanks, everybody on Facebook for sticking around. Oh, hey, Sarah Siegel, great to see you here. I wondered, because you've been so active and you say for 10 years you've been an activist, I wondered what you wish you knew then 10 years ago that you know now.
Yeah, I think I learned this lesson a year or two into being vegan, but that first year or two was a little bit hard. And that is actually that I shouldn't try and overwhelm my friends and family with veganism because it is problematic to focus so much energy on them because they will often not want to do it. And so that is going to lead to them disappointing you. That's going to lead to you being annoyed and being hurt, and then leading to tension. My best approach for those I'm close with in real life is to be significantly more subtle about it, and then save my more, my louder activism for the general public, whether it was handing out leaflets on on college campuses or on street corners like I used to do, or focusing on reaching as many people through these social media channels like Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Those are ways to maximize your impact while also minimizing your own frustrations.
I love that you say that, because really, as an activist, you're in it for the long haul. So in so many ways, you can't burn out. You can't spend too much energy. I mean, you have to just know what's the right amount for you. Otherwise, burnout is a real thing. And if you get too disappointed, too frustrated too often, you're going to, you're just not going to be able to keep it up. So I love that. It's very good information, I would say. Okay. I wish I had more time with you. Everybody, I'm on vacay. As soon as I shut off this interview, I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks. So I won't be back next week or the week after, but I will be back after that in September. And I do want to say, John, I loved having you with me. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all you do. You truly move the needle for people, the planet, and animals. And I'm grateful.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and you do as well. I was honored to be on the show. We could finally make it happen, and I'm honored to be your last guest before your lovely vacation. So have a good trip, and I'm looking forward to being back at some point in the future. Thanks for all you do.
So awesome. Everybody, I will see you after vacay. John, don't go away. Everybody else, subscribe. You know what to do. Subscribe and share. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Hold on, John.